The first half of Frieren's second season shifts back into slice of life. That slow burn gives the story room to focus on the party's relationships. Every trio in fiction builds a shared language, usually through conflict, until it finally feels natural. But Frieren's twist is the premise. The past keeps reshaping the present. And in season 2, Stark's past stops being backstory. It becomes the reason he finally feels like he belongs in the party. Today we're exploring how that shift gives the trio room to grow and why Stark's relationships start to feel earned. In episode 1, Stark is morose because she's mad at him. Fern's upset because he stumbled into girl time like a bull in a china shop. He didn't see anything, but the frustration is that he just doesn't get it. They get to a small inn and run into Werble. In this context, he's a foil for the trio's party dynamics. A version of adventuring where trampling on girl time isn't a concern. And we're reminded he also fought already in Werble's party, helping take out some monsters during one of the breaks in the first class mage exams. So of course he offers Stark a job that seems like a better fit. Killing demons in a bro party up north. At the end of the evening, Fern comes outside to talk to him. You're really not gonna go with them? Because even Frieren and Fern realize it might be a better fit, but Stark's resolute in staying with the girls. We see the flashback to the first season where he's planning on running away from the village. It's not that Frieren dragged him into the party. He's here because Fern believed in him first. That made joining easy and it makes staying even easier now. So he tells her, be nicer to me. We see her reflect on the day in a way that tells us she's there in part for Stark too. This is the moment that Stark stops being the guy who everyone thinks is there because he was told to. He's choosing the party, and that choice is what makes everything after this possible. We get to see some more of that growth in the third episode. They've gotten to a volcanic part of the north where there's hot springs around. They run into some folks who still live in the abandoned remnants of an old onsen town that went dry. Stark mentions there's a hidden one up in the mountains he's heard about and wants to go. Frieren's like, bad idea. And even the folks who live there aren't sure if it's still around, but he insists. Frieren, showing off her emotional growth, picks up on this, like, you're into this, huh? Alright, let's go do it then. Yes, she does the head pats and make sure to tell Frieren and Stark they did a good job, because her care is very praise-heavy and easily visible, but the subtle moments, like this one, matter most. She's listening for what he actually means. It sits in contrast to even Frieren in the first episode after the girls' time kerfuffle. It took her a while to pick up the vibes were off. Frieren and Fern ask why he was so hot to trot on this. It's just a footpath. Since it's Stark driving the party, he gets to narrate the flashback and reframe this side quest as the point. Eisen, his master, told him about it. Himmel's party had found it and it was so comically shallow that it became a precious memory. Stark cares about making those doing dumb stuff with your friends just because they're your friends memories as well. And the point isn't what you're doing, it's that you're with them. And a beautiful view with your buddies ain't too shabby either. Fern understands caring for others is paying attention to the details and living up to your responsibilities. Her care for the details of their journey is something she expects of the other two. We see this play out in episode 3. They've arrived in the onsen town and Frieren's taken to hot tubbing it. Fern and Stark are discussing their plans for the next day and she says, we have nothing at all to do tomorrow. I'll go get my axe sharpened, Stark says, missing the subtext entirely. She said we, pausing for a moment and then responding curtly.
だから私、明日暇なんですけど、構ってください。
Fern expects Stark to understand what she's asking and why. She assumes he can read the air, that nothing to do means let's do something together. She dresses him down here because it's not something she left unspoken, but made explicit. It echoes their balcony conversation in episode 1. Stark says he's here because of her, so Fern expects that to show up as attention. Once he chooses to stay, the romance is something he's responsible for. The subtext is, if you're here because of me, then act like it. After Stark asks Fern out on some this'll show her energy, and she says yes, he panics, and asks Frieren what he should do. After the already classic crying callback, they go on a let's plan the real date trip. They're in the plaza overlooking the town. Stark compliments how well Frieren knows Fern, and she says, oh, I only know what Frieren likes because Hyder knew it all and passed it on. He gave me the answers to the tests and I'm just sharing them with you. I just remembered. He's the smart one. And Stark again, told you he's growing up, tells Frieren, you remembered. That's what makes you a good parental figure to Fern. I love this moment because Stark's the one who names it. It's remembering. The show's whole conceit in one sentence. The act of remembering is care. And by caring, she's honoring the dying request of her old friend, while also strengthening her relationship with Fern, and now Stark too. On the morning of the date, Fern asks a barely awake Frieren which outfit she likes better. Now Fern should know from literally feeding her breakfast that Frieren's not a morning person, and this isn't a question she can process yet. But this is another piece of Fern's friction. When she asks, the question is whether you're paying attention or not. She's already emotionally committed to the answer, so when Frieren, still half asleep, says, I don't know man, what's the difference? Anyway, can you do my hair before you go? We immediately cut to Fern silently braiding Frieren's hair in anger. I love this little shot after. Fern's getting dressed for the date, Frieren sitting behind her with a tear in her eye. It's obvious she's crying from the pain, but it does also work as a tear of, my little Fern's going on her first date, they grow up so fast. Frieren feels like her expectations are the most Japanese, the most read the air. Unfortunately, she's got an emotionally delayed 1,000-year-old elf with her and a young guy who's kind of really bad at that. Her expectations that she sets for others lead her to be angry and disappointed in them. But as we'll see later, she's growing. What better representation of being on different pages than Stark dressing normally and Fern taking the time to get dressed up and clicking the straps on her perfectly white shoes, getting her hair just right. Dress up next time, pal. She'll notice. Stark doesn't know what he doesn't know. Once they go on the date, it's got an awkward air. He misses some obvious cues because he's trying to stick to the script. When they get to the same plaza where Frieren and Stark spoke the day before, he can tell she didn't really dig it. And when he asks her why, she says, "It didn't feel like you." He tells her the planning he did, and she's understandably a bit miffed. Why would you do that? But gets it once he explains that he wanted the date to go perfect. She gets the reason was care, not laziness. That Stark's taking responsibility for the relationship instead of just tagging along. He's just not fully ready to take that responsibility on his own just yet when Frieren can help. They relax and watch the clouds and say how lucky they are as orphans of war to have some time like this, and that they have Hyder and Eisen to thank. This memory of the past that hits for Stark is a dovetail with Hyder's from the first season. A young Stark asks Eisen why he took him in. He says, "It's what Himmel would do." That's the same reason Hyder took in Fern. It's what Himmel would do. The romance that's blossoming between the two of them is one rooted in communication. They're stunted orphans of war who were raised by the Legends of the Heroes Party. Of course they're bad at this, but they're working on getting better. And at the end of the date, this all gets contextualized as one big family, the shared history of the first party in this one. I think early in the first season, it felt a lot of the time like Stark was kind of just putting up with things because he didn't want to rock the boat. He already knew he was the odd man out. So by not responding to Fern's anger with any meaningful defense of himself, and just letting it go and hopefully apologizing and trying to move on, was the way he operated early on. But now that he's building up his confidence in both himself as a warrior and also in his place in the party, that understanding of why he's there then gives them some more common ground and shared understanding to push back on each other. Even though he's still doing it like a kid, because he is one, and his thinking about it is getting back at her for being a little bit nasty, he still does want to go on a date with her. And she says yes because she wants to go on a date with him. But now that we know these guys have the words to speak to each other, to say, hey, you're part of the reason I'm here, and you're part of the reason I'm staying, we want to see that romance blossom and continue, and we want to continue to see Stark stick up for himself. It's not like he's going to start pushing back every time Fern gets mad at him. That's a losing proposition, and there's probably some times where she should be mad at him. But at the end of the day, he finally feels like he belongs in a real way. Because he's able to tell Frieren the truth about what's right in front of her that she doesn't understand, the fact that she's a good parent to Fern, his asking Frieren for help is his way of taking responsibility and trying to show care. But again, taking the time to go back to this slice of life format and letting the show really breathe and seeing this all play out has been wonderful. I've really loved these first 5 episodes. I think they've done a brilliant job. If you're still watching, that rules. Thank you. I'm expanding into talking about more anime that I love, not just Chainsaw Man. So if you like this, stay tuned for some more Frieren and seasonal anime. And if you really dig this, then subscribe and check out the links in my description to support the show on Patreon or YouTube memberships. You can get monthly bonus content, updates on my latest videos, and shoutouts to members like these. Thanks for your support. Peace.